Okay, I was asked to unmute. Let me tell you that this, in actual fact, helps me to throw things in perspective, because we're looking at a lot of things that are unfolding before us. Sometimes I wonder why the Nigerian nation goes through the rigors that it normally goes through by trying to test how the public reacts to things. Now, what do I mean by that? The current situation is the value-added tax, which is one major assignment that was given to the Federal Republic, from the Federal Republic to the people, and it was supposed to be for the benefit, I believe, of all. There has been a tussle between the federal government and the state government, who are themselves brother and sister, or should I say father and children, over who should be the custodian of VAT. Now, I'm glad to have with me Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, who by any chance, by every standard, should be Dr. Emmanuel Ijewere. I would say DST, who apparently was the chairman of the committee that set up value-added tax in Nigeria under the military regime many years ago. And he's with us now in the studio, on Zoom, by the way, and he's going to now give us a background to how this whole thing started and how far we've come with it. Mr. Ijewere, sir, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I want it to be as loud, as clear as possible. Is it possible?
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you put yourself on camera? No?
Yeah, I'm trying to. The device I'm using now has a bit of problem, but I'm in 2 or 3 minutes, I'll be on camera.
Sure, no problem at all. Go ahead. So, well, we will be talking to Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, and hopefully, I'm told the Lagos State Commissioner for Finance, am I right, sir, should be with us on Zoom. So with the Permanent Secretary of Finance, I believe. And they will give us their own perspective, Lagos State perspective, And of course, we also know that the governor of Rivers State has been quite vocal about how this whole thing should be processed. Now, there was a court ruling, that said the federal government has no right whatsoever to go collecting VAT on behalf of everyone. And so, of course, Governor Nyesom Wike went to town and said, well, I think he himself is a lawyer, and I think his wife is also a lawyer, went to town and said, no, it cannot happen. Federal government put up an appeal, said, no, they can't take it from us. So the chairman of the committee that set up VAT for Nigeria is today going to tell us where it started, how it started, who is supposed to be the custodian of VAT in Nigeria, and how can we resolve this, what appears to be imbroglio or conundrum, as it has turned out to be today. So, Mr. Ijewere, sir, first, can you enlighten us more about VAT?
Thank you very much, Sonny, and thanks for this opportunity. In 1992, President Babangida, who was the president of Nigeria at the time, the military president,
yes,
was advised by the World Bank that Nigeria needed to increase its revenue base. And they came up with the idea of value-added tax.
Okay.
They also went on to say to him that they have observed that a number of states, to boost their revenue base, have established sales tax. And this is a good idea, but they believe that value-added tax is a better structured process of collecting taxes, or what we call consumer tax. However, the government now said we will accept it, but in accepting it, the first thing they did was to set up a study group. So I was invited to lead the study group. The first step of the study group is to say whether it is feasible in Nigeria to establish value-added tax, which was...
Are you there? Hello? We just lost Mr. Ijewere now.
in fact, very popular in Europe at the time.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Ijewere, we lost
yes, sorry.
We lost you a while ago. So can you just sort of backtrack about 2 sentences to continue?
Okay.
Please, sorry about that.
All right. The World Bank had advised President Babangida, and he set up, President Babangida set up a study group.
Yes.
The study group was given 6 months within which to advise his government as to whether VAT was feasible in Nigeria or not. Okay. I was invited to chair the study group.
Okay.
And the study group was given 6 months, but in 3 months, we submitted a report that value-added tax was feasible in Nigeria. The president now directed that that committee that particular study group should not be constituted into a value-added tax committee. So that was what transpired. It was made up of about 37 people drawn from all over the country.
Okay.
And the study group had to now find out from various parts of the world. In actual fact, we drew experience from 21 countries around the world. And we were able to send small delegations to 14 of those countries. And they came back with a report. And the issue was this. The Nigerian situation was slightly different than the others than many of them.
What made it different?
Because Nigeria was a federation.
Federation, okay.
In preparing our report, we took into consideration, first and foremost, value-added tax was being established to replace sales tax, which was a state tax.
State tax, okay.
Number 2, yes, each state set up its own
state tax, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember in Lagos in particular, although the World Bank said that it was inefficient around the country, but Lagos was still the best. There was, I remember, a gentleman, the chairman of Lagos State Internal Revenue, Mr. Alhaji Rabiu, was fantastic, very, very knowledgeable in it, but he did not have the staff to be able to do it, and that was not common in all the states of the federation. So we now said the best approach would be, what are you collecting now from your sales tax? We now sat down and we did a projection, what it will be when we make it more efficient. So in our recommendation to the federal government, we said, set up a value-added tax commission who will do 2 things. As agents of each state, collect the value-added tax, and at the end of every month, give an account to the state and say, this is what we collected from your state. This is your money, minus 5%. That 5% that was withheld will be used for 2 things. For the administration of that particular commission. And the commission's life was for 5 years, because within 5 years, they should have trained the various states from part of that 5% they were taking. Are you still with me?
Yes, sir. Sorry, please go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, from that 5%, they were to do 2 things: run the administration of collecting the tax and advising, and number 2, train the staff, upgrade them, because you see, you really cannot run VAT without computerization. And very many of the people in the state internal revenue had little or no knowledge about computer. There was no computerization at that time. I'm talking about 1992.
Okay.
So the whole idea was that it would be a state tax. Now, we now submitted our report. But in submitting our report, we made a mistake. The mistake we made was this. We gave figures of the sales tax that has been collected state by state, and some were 0.
Oh.
The second mistake we made was that we extrapolated, or we forecast from what we were doing and what were the infrastructures on the ground and the possibilities and the businesses state by state, this is how much will be collected from each state.
Yes.
A number of states stood out. Number one, far, far ahead, was Lagos State. For two main reasons. It was the most efficient, and two, it was the biggest economic center of the country. Rivers State was another one. Kano State was a third one. Then you also had, I think, 3 or 4 others. But we put this as part of the report. And when we discussed this report with the World Bank, they were very excited that we were able to come up with an innovative thing like that. And so we passed it on to the government. When the then minister, at the time we were appointed, the PAMSEC finance was Alhaji Abubakar Alhaji, AAA. So by the time we were submitting our report, he was now the Minister of Finance. And he took it on to the president, who presented it to Federal Executive Council. From what we heard, and that's where our mistake came in, when some members of the Federal Executive Council saw the figures that will be collected from tax and will be resident in the various states, they now said that would be unfair. We should now bring it to the National Treasury and let us share the same way.
Oh no.
This was the problem we had when the decision was taken at the called the Military Supreme Council.
I think it was Supreme
we
Military
heard
Council.
About it and we were informed. We had one of our best great members was a man who I will never forget. Professor Sam Aluko.
Yeah.
He insisted that we should write a letter of protest to the president. That's this committee. And we did. Eventually, we were invited by the then Vice President, Admiral Aikomu, to come and explain our anger. And we explained to him, and he took it back to the president, and the president said, look, it's a Supreme Council decision. He cannot change. Professor Aluko, in fact, threatened that we should now have a public press conference. But we said, no, it was government that appointed us. But that unfairness has been in my mind and in members of my committee all this period. Every time we have had an opportunity, we have said it is unjust, it is unfair. Because these state governments who are doing a lot on internally collected revenue, improving on it, and ready to improve more, should benefit from it, because in many cases, like in Lagos, they have a lot of infrastructural burden with a huge population. So it was not fair. So that was the situation. And since it was a military government, they put it in the law and whatever. So you can imagine the excitement I got when the judgment of Rivers State came up. So I stopped there for the time being.
But let me ask, why did it take such a long time from 1992, or the year the thing became law, to now? That's quite a long time. Why did it take such a long time for any court in Nigeria to even hold sway and say, this decision has to be corrected?
That was because, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. You remember how many the state governors are the ones that are responsible.
Okay.
Now, since they are the ones that are responsible, they need to challenge it. And I am not very good in law. Neither am I good in politics. But I do know unfairness is unfairness. What I read to what happened on the Rivers State judgment was coming back home to the truth and ensuring that we are able to give...
Sorry, brother, I can see you battling with your camera. It's okay. Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Okay. There's a backlash between your speaker and your microphone. Maybe you need to kill the one leave the camera on, but kill the microphone of the camera. And then the one you're using to talk to us before, use that phone. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a bit crackling, but yes. Go ahead.
Okay. What we considered was that all these things, the best development in 40 years ago.
Can I beg you, sir? Can I beg you to use the first microphone you were using, because that is clearer than this one. This is crackling very seriously. Okay.
All right, I'll do that.
Oh, sorry. For those of us who are watching us, this is a very powerful interview, and is really giving us the foundation of how VAT started and where the legal tussle actually started. It turned out that the military had tried to, truncate the whole process. I use the word truncate because of the way it turned out. The recommendation was original. It was meant for the states, but the military at that time, took it over and made it a federal issue. Now, the current situation is that a federal high court in Port Harcourt has now stopped the federal government from claiming ownership or collection of the VAT, and then making it a state affair, which means every state of the federation is entitled to collect, VAT from any Nigerian who is, or even tourists who are busy trying to buy things from wherever. When many of us used to travel abroad a lot, and then when you're at the airport, you buy some items and they ask you now to pay VAT. And in fact, sometimes you take the document, you get back home, pay it in, and then you do collection. Are you down here, sir? Mr. Ijewere, are you there?
They were meant to be together. When you went to discuss with Peggy, because I have to leave that up. I think you should discuss with Peggy.
I should do what?
MFP fits theirs. Every person also fits theirs.
Sorry, I'm just trying to talk to them. Let me just welcome all. Sorry, can you kill your microphone at that stage, Mr. Ijewere, because that noise is coming from there. They are clashing at this moment. Your microphone is clashing with your speaker. Yes. And I think you have two devices on.
Since the network is not stable.
Okay. While can you kill his microphone meanwhile? While we try to sort ourselves. Okay. This is Tony Rabor Live. We are always going through this kind of adventure, but we will get it right. Always we will get it right in due course. Because this information is very vital. Okay, sir, I can see you clearly. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Can you hear me too?
Yes. So somebody, okay, can you mute everybody, please, and put the Mr. Ijewere's line on? Because all the speakers are on. It shouldn't be. All the microphones are on. Yes, somebody is making a lot of, okay, Adenola, somebody is there. Adenola, mute. Okay. Yes. Mr. Ijewere, please go ahead. I think we've managed to sort out the problem.
Yep. What I was saying, your question was, how come it's taking so long?
Yeah,
I just simply said that it took so long because it's possible that some people who are supposed to look at the law, they don't really look at the law. But what I do know is that the successive governors from Lagos have always protested the unfairness of the value-added tax collection system and distribution system. They've always done that. But we have it's difficult now to say what should happen.
I don't know. I think the microphone, can you move it from your mouth a bit? Because the sound is bouncing back and creating serious problems. And we need your voice because you're really telling us a big story that must not be toyed with. Can you hear me? Mr. Ijewere? Mr. Ijewere, how are you? I have two. I can see two of your, names. That means there are two. Mr. Ijewere, are you there? Okay, right. Say something. He went back on. This is Sonny Rabo live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're trying to, and Zoom, of course. Yes. There's Zoom. Right. Okay, Mr. Ijewere, we are on now. How are you?
Yes.
I want to apologize.
Fine. Can you hear me now?
Very clearly. Thank you so much. I apologize for what happened, but these things sometimes cannot be avoided. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Right.
Now, so that's the situation, because I know that consistently the governor, I think the governor of Lagos State, the governors of Lagos State have consistently hammered home on this point, but they are 1 out of 36. So you can imagine the situation. And many of the other states, quite clearly from a political angle, will not want to lose what they are getting without working for. And those who were working for it will want to get back the hard work they have done. That is the political environment in which we are. So one has to look at it. But one thing that was very instructive was that our report, which the World Bank now took to Ghana, worked beautifully for Ghana. Indonesia.
And it's not working for us here.
Yeah. And Indonesia, where we also went to learn, they were at their elementary stage. We promised the ambassador that our final report will let them see so they can learn from it. Indonesia today, from value-added tax alone, their total tax collection represents 48% of their revenue. They have replaced virtually oil with value-added tax. Wow. Those are the challenges Nigeria needs to now consider for itself. Because if the states are doing it, it's a lot more efficient. One exciting thing that must be understood by all about value-added tax is that value-added tax is a voluntary tax.
Voluntary.
Yes. Your income tax is not a voluntary tax. By law, you must pay.
That's an interesting
thing. And in some cases, it is punitive. That's why the rates could be punitive. Whereas in value-added tax, you have a choice to pay or not pay. I give an example of what I'm saying. You pay value-added tax if you go to a hotel to have lunch.
Yes.
When you go to Mama Put, you don't pay. You have a choice because of the services. The other one is you can choose to be eating out. You can choose to buy the raw food and cook in your house. When you buy the raw food and cook in your house, you don't pay any VAT on it. But if you take your family out to eat regularly, you pay VAT on it. You can decide to drink alcoholic drink that has value-added tax on it, or you drink water. These are issues. So value-added tax is a very developmental tax and encourages people to participate rather than a situation, and it's supposed to reduce the quantum of payments from your personal tax. What we planned at that time was that 5% was the figure for 5 years. We moved it up to 7%, but then the rate of internal of the personal tax should come down in consonance.
Okay.
So
now, yes. I wanted to ask, looking at those years and how it has graduated, because I know that value-added tax actually was increased to 7.5 recently, wasn't it?
Yes, recently. That was, I think early this year.
Early this year.
7.5 this year, yes.
7.5. So which means the federal government has actually been applying all the advisory indices, right? So what has the states done wrong now that is turning the federal government against the states to be appealing that judgment?
No, the question is this. Oh, come on, Sonny, let's be fair. If you are used to eating the first-class rice, you will not want to go to eat the one with stone now. So the situation is simple. There were some few states are responsible for the large quantity of value-added tax collected because of their efficient system. because of their population, because
of the word
industrial development.
System.
Sorry?
Okay. You said because of their efficient system.
Let me explain that. At the time we were doing this in 1992, 1994, the various states' internal revenue departments were very, very weak. They were just civil servants who knew nothing about taxation. And that was what that committee was supposed to do. But between that time and now, a number of states, especially states like Lagos, have upgraded the quality of their staff. They are some of the best in the world today, I can say that. So is the Federal Inland Revenue as well. They are good people there today. So that commission is no longer necessary. I need to bring that up. Between that time and now, the various internal revenue, especially in most states, but some states have not moved forward. But a number of states, I know Lagos very well. I know the River State very well. Kano has improved, and Kaduna, they have improved considerably. So we are glad about that, the quality and the level they are now. It's now a question of getting both the states and the local government to be involved in the value-added tax collection.
Okay. If the states are fighting and the federal government is appealing against the judgment by the Federal High Court, which is supposed to be a federal, when you say Federal High Court, it's supposed to be an institution of federal government, isn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
But they are guided by the rule of law.
Guided by the rule. I love that statement. Guided by the rule of law. So if the states now insist, as they are doing, Jason Wike has said there's no reason whatsoever why the federal government should want to take back the control of VAT.
Yes.
And then the Lagos State governor also, is it yesterday or so, said there's no going back on VAT position, the position of Lagos State on VAT collection.
I'm glad to hear that. Very glad, very glad.
So if Kano goes the same direction, I see other states following suit.
Yeah.
Now, when the government, the federal government now, if I use the word fails in quote, to win back the control of the VAT, how much of a setback would they get?
I think, the VAT today, I think, you remember that the VAT is collected into a box and redistributed to all the states. I think the federal government retains only about 40% or something. I can't remember the figure. They keep changing it. About 40% of it. And the other 60% is sent out to both the states and the local governments. So the government, Lagos, the federal government itself will lose a substantial part of money that it never generated.
They never
and those ones will, those ones will end up back in the pockets of the states. So the federal government will lose part of it. But you remember with all the debate going on that there should be a true federation. Let each state compete through its hard work. And I think there's no better way to start this true federation thing. That's what my committee came up with at the time. That true federation, because these were sales tax that state governments were doing to augment their own internally collected revenue. So I do not see any justification personally, because I was there from day one. And the World Bank was very excited. But the time the Federal Executive Council, I think that was the name, Supreme Military Council or what, took that decision, the guy, the Central Bank, the World Bank representative, he said that he cannot believe it. He cannot believe it. But that was the situation, and it was imposed on the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Because at the time of our work, the Federal Revenue Service were very cooperative. I remember Chief Olorunleke, David Olorunleke, very cooperative, was the chairman of the Federal Revenue Service. And they worked very closely with us. But their boss was the Supreme Military Council, and they said, take it over and start running it. So they had to start running helter-skelter. At that time, they themselves were not really fully ready, because computerization system at the Federal Revenue Service in 1994 was very, very poor indeed. Yes, they have risen today to the demand. They've done well. They have good quality people today. But at that time, they never did.
So who do we credit for this kind of upliftment? I remember the tenure of Ifweko Moigui.
Yes.
Who was before her? She was there for about 8 years, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
And then Babatunde Fowler now took over.
Yeah, I think Naiju was before her or something of that sort. But in any case, I think that means for the improvement, I think the improvements have been instrumental. From the time of Olorunleke, from the time the value tax collection system was handed over to the Federal Revenue Service, Chief Olorunleke really started working. They even got experts to advise them to improve, and they invested a lot of money on computerization and the training of their staff. That happened at the time because value tax was new to Nigeria, and the entire tax system in Nigeria was manual. So it's now it's not long ago we went fully digital.
So let's go back a bit to the tax system as against VAT. Yes. The tax system was manual, and today you cannot say it has improved greatly enough, has it?
Well, I would say it has. Given the entire situation in the country, I think a number of states have done very well in improving their tax collection system, their payment system, and so on and so forth. In those days, you had to carry your check to the State Internal Revenue Office. You queue up to pay, and then they will now start reconciling. And sometimes they will say the check is missing, all those kinds of things. Nowadays, everything is done electronically. The bank collects on their behalf, and immediately you are credited and so on. Things have improved considerably. We have moved away from the dark old days.
Okay, fantastic to hear that. So if this VAT is taking the way it has gone now, and then states become successful, it's obvious that some states will be buoyant and many more will be very deficit oriented, isn't it?
Certainly, but it gives them an opportunity of improving theirs. Yes, it gives them, it's a challenge to them. And it's not that difficult. There was a state, I think it was Plateau State, that said that they don't have industries. You don't have industries. You don't need industries to be able to do this. You don't, because, for example, if they drink beer, you don't need an industry. The beer could have come from any brewery outside your state, but the tax is collected there because it's the person selling the beer that will have to charge value-added tax on it. I hope you understand, because it's a consumption tax.
In fact,
who are those that consume it last?
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned beer, because that one is also causing some ripple right now. The same Wike said that the states some people in some states are destroying alcoholic drinks. And he said, it is not right for you to destroy the drinks when you are actually receiving taxation from the drinks. VAT, he said. Now, what's the implication of that? Is it that they have no right to destroy?
All right. Now that, in actual fact, that was one of the debates we had, because a number of members of my committee were from the northern states, and they had at the back of their minds Sharia tax. And many of them said they didn't think it was right for those who are paying tax on alcoholic drink to now start, or rather those who were against drinks money being collected from alcoholic drinks to be benefiting from it. In actual fact, that's why everything should remain in the state. It is easier to control in the state. The whole thing what created this issue of destruction of beer and so on in a particular state is because of this federal government Supreme Military Council decision that had no regard for the amount of hard work that went into this before it was presented to them. I am sorry to say the personal interests of members of that body influenced what they did without realizing the consequences of what they have done.
So now, this segment is laden with a lot of controversial interpretations, because Nigeria is so accultural. We look at religion, we look at culture and tradition, we look at so many other things. But then we also forget that, hey, the country needs to earn to survive. The people need to be well employed, well paid, and taken to the level where they can take care of themselves. You know, should I say self-emancipation? With the topsy-turvy situation going on, what do you advise both federal and state governments to do? Because they're both guilty of this whole thing, the misinterpretation of the law.
First, law is based on people's needs and desires.
Okay.
That law that was made had no relevance to the people's desires and needs, because that law, the origin of that law was from sales tax. Sales tax were state taxes on consumption.
So no matter what it is you consume.
Yes, you pay for it. And that was it. It was the states that started sales tax to help themselves. And that's what the World Bank said, like, look, states, it's a good idea of the states, but they need to be helped. The whole idea of helping them is that help them improve the quantum of the taxes they were collecting from sales tax, but change its name to value-added tax. So the principles of value-added tax, as known worldwide, can be applied here. Okay. So that fundamental issue was wrong for anybody to take it away from the state. Just because you sat at a meeting round a table, you are now thinking more of your own state, your own personal needs, rather than the needs of those people who are in fact the ones collecting the taxes. And you remember that it was virtually a unitary government.
Yes.
Now it's time of politics for people to come up and express themselves and explain to everybody that this is my desire. And I do believe that a state like Lagos of Rivers, Kano, Kaduna can stand up and say, your right stops where my own right starts. The right of these states starts from the fact that these goods were consumed by people in their state. And to these people, they have a duty and responsibility to provide them with infrastructure, provide them with services, hospitals, and so on and so forth, roads. That's where the money should come from. So the fairness is the fairness. It's fundamentally wrong of the federal government to do what he has done. It's all born out of federal might, which is a product of the military government. There was no fairness whatsoever.
What is fair in looking at how the people are protected, their basic needs are met? What is fair if the people are crying that, listen, we need you to look at us from the point of view of what we say and how it affects the governance system? But that doesn't appear to be the case. And that's why there are so many mouths and voices screaming loud and saying, no, this thing has to be better. So from your judgment, sir, you are a citizen of Nigeria. You're one of those that put the tax system in public glare. How will you advise government to manage the emotions of the people, the expectations of the people, and meeting the basic needs of the same people? What's your advice to government, federal?
My advice is basically this. Federal government, recognize the unfairness of this and go back and say that you've done wrong. Get the Federal Inland Revenue Service to now work with the state governments to now unbundle the value-added tax system state by state. But where a state feels that it does not have the ability to do it, they can appoint you an agent to do it for them. But I will prefer, I think, in my opinion, there are some states in this country that don't have the right quality, the computerization as required for value-added tax to do it efficiently. But the Federal Inland Revenue Service has built up the manpower, the knowledge, and the infrastructure to do it. But it must not be by force. Those states that can do it themselves should be allowed to go and start doing it themselves and collect their money the way they choose. Those states that don't have the ability now can appoint the Federal Inland Revenue as an agent for them to help them collect on monthly basis. So that's the advice I will give.
Yes, sir. While thinking that this advice is very laudable and acceptable, I want to take you back a bit to when you said the collection, when federal government was in charge, collection was, they took from the whole country, domiciled it in their own coffers, and then took about 40% and 60% was now redistributed to the number of states that existed then. And local governments.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Now the implication of this is that you're going to be spoon feeding the weak ones who cannot get anywhere. And as I said earlier, it's also going to create an opportunity for them to even be more lazy, not to do anything because they are sure that they will get something anyway. You know, almost every month, not almost every month, every commissioner of finance comes to the federal government in Abuja and wait for federation account, distribution. The implication of that to me sounds a bit not the cleanest.
It is sad. That is sad, and that's what we've been talking about. That when you make them work hard, they improve. This state, the way Nigeria is structured today, encourages laziness in some states. There are some states of the federation that have taken it upon themselves to improve their internally generated revenue, so that they don't become slaves to the monthly allocation of the federal government. So, and those states should be encouraged to continue to do better. And those who are relying on it shall now be encouraged to improve their ability. When they see their neighboring states doing well, they will try to improve on what they are doing. So what I do agree with your thinking here, that what we have done in the past is to encourage laziness. And that is to be avoided. And we should go on to a situation where states are allowed to compete with each other in a healthy manner. And wherever possible, help each other, even to the state, to the level that some states may request some other states to give them well-trained people to help train their own people. That is the kind of thing I want in a federation. So the situation, I believe, is that I just hope that politics will not come in and frustrate this new trend, which I think is very healthy for Nigeria, of now creating proper federation. It's a small victory, but we must not let that victory go. There are many other things that one has to look at to ensure that a proper federation is set up. Let everybody develop at its own pace, but helping each other as brothers. That is the way I see it going forward in Nigeria.
Okay, I want to give the people in the Zoom world a chance to ask you some questions. So if you're in the Zoom chambers, please signify by raising your hand, and then I will call on you to ask your question, and then Ijewere will gladly and kindly take your question. In the meantime, I will also expect some information from Instagram and Facebook. And there, of course, those who are streaming live on YouTube, let me please ask you to go and subscribe to YouTube, because we're going to be doing a lot more of these every other day, and you'll be surprised what we'll be discussing about trending issues, society, politics, business, and all of that. So please, who is available, who wants to ask a question? And so I can give you a chance right now to do so. Okay, nothing yet. Everybody has been listening, and I like that. Meanwhile, Mr. Ijewere.
Yes.
What is the position of, the tax system in Nigeria? It doesn't appear to be covering all grounds yet, if you ask me. What do I mean? It is not yet Uhuru, because our accounting system is still a big problem. There are so many who are not remembering to pay their taxes, and those who try to avoid it, they avoid. Those who pay are not satisfied. They say they don't like the way they are being treated. I don't know. Maybe I'm oversweeping my statement. Please, what do you think is lacking? And how should we address it?
5 years ago, I would have totally agreed with you. But the last 5 years has seen tremendous improvement through digitalization. What's happened? What the real problem was what happens all over the world. Nobody enjoys going to pay tax voluntarily. That is normal. That's not just Nigerian. It's all over the world. But when you now find yourself in a situation where you cannot hide anymore, then you have no choice but to pay. And one of the ways that stops you from hiding or prevents you from hiding is the digitalization issue. For example, your bank, what's it called now? Your BVN.
BVN, yes. BVN.
Your BVN exposes you to all your transactions. And by law, they can dig into what you are doing. And that happens worldwide, not just Nigeria. Number two, you also have...
Sorry, before you go for that, that means that everybody who has a BVN should bear in mind that they must start paying tax now.
Oh, yes.
If they haven't already been doing that. Yeah?
Absolutely. Because the long arms of the law will catch up with them. Because through electronic determination, we've been able to go very far in ensuring that there are fewer tax evaders. So the situation now is that it is improving year by year, both at the federal and at the state level. And although some states are moving far ahead of the other states, but the fact still remains that at least it's a better situation now than it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And it's improving year by year. People can hardly hide their heads in taxes because, and that's the message, yes, because if you have been doing it, the law also allows them to dig into your past, especially if you evade tax, which is a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense, and criminality has no limit in terms of dates.
Okay. All right. We have some people, there are some hands that are raised. Efosa Ijewere, please go ahead. Efosa Ijewere, unmute yourself and ask your question. Efosa Ijewere, your hand is up. You want to speak?
Yes,
also, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Go ahead, yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
It's a very interesting session. My name is Efosa Ijewere. Yes, my question is firstly, let me introduce myself where I work. I work from the insurance sector.
Okay.
I work from the insurance sector. And there's something I understood in our insurance industry that a life, let me say, a pure life insurance is being guarded by tax rebate. That let me explain that literally, when someone that is you are not taxed based on the life cover you paid as an individual.
Okay.
And in Nigeria today, we are finding it so difficult, we that work in insurance industry, to actually translate this to our prospects and clients, and how to get a tax rebate for our clients, most especially those that work in the states and federal parastatals. We see that most of them that sign up for a life cover insurance, they don't get this rebate. According to the statutory law, which I cannot quote this section right now, that I know that any insurance you take on your life attract a rebate at the end of the year, and it's being calculated that you are not supposed to be taxed on the life cover paid. So
let me come in there quickly. Let me come in.
Yes,
quite clearly. First and foremost, we need to understand there are 2 different types of taxes. The first one is tax on income. That's why it's called income tax.
Yeah.
Right. What you are saying is that a person who has taken out a life insurance, that person is income. You must have had an income, identifiable income that was taxable. But the government, in part of its rule, to encourage people to save for the future, say to them, you will get a particular discount or reduction or special allowance so that that investment you have made, we are being encouraged to make, you do. However, many of the people we are talking about here, it's possible that they have not filed their tax returns correctly, adequately, and honestly. Wow. So work your way back to these individuals. Find out the source from where they are paying their insurance premium. If it's from an income, has that income been adequately taxed in accordance with the rules? If the rules are applied, then he can take advantage of the allowances provided in the rules. So it's not just a law is made. No, the law has a foundation. The law still stands on the fact that if you have an income, your income must be taxed. But before it is taxed, you make a return. Give an honest figure and say, this is how much I collected, this is how much I earned as salary, this is how much I earned as director's fees, and so on and so forth. Against that, you state the other expenses that are allowable. State them, but the amount of money you state is not the issue. But in this particular case, you must show evidence that you have life insurance policy documented by the insurance company. I hope you understand that. It's not that you made a law and therefore you go and get the tax rebate. No such thing.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Sir, I also understood your area. The area I'm actually trying to drive at is the area of the state and federal civil services.
Okay.
Presently in my company, this tax rebate work for the multinationals.
Okay.
Like for those that sign up a policy with us that work in the multinationals, at the end of the year, my company, mutual benefits, that is what we also use as one of our benefit to sell this individual, because I'm a salesman. So we tell them that at the end of the year, we can calculate we can get a tax rebate certificate from our company. And yes, to be sincere with you, you work with the multinationals. But for the states and the federal ministries, workers that sign up a policy with us, it does not work. I don't really know what is happening.
Let's give an example, my brother. Let's give an example. Somebody who is a civil servant, is working as a civil servant, but is collecting rent.
Okay.
Now, it's possible that he did not declare that rent because it's an income.
Okay.
He never declared that rent. I'm only giving that as an example. Or he has some other businesses he's doing and he's not declared it. So these people will hide away their income and therefore will not expose it and be able to get the benefits. That's basically the situation. And when you have these multinationals, most of them have very strict instructions to their staff to be straightforward, and every month they reconcile. And that's where any company or any individual who is filing his tax returns adequately and paying the necessary tax is protected to take advantage of whatever the law provides for him, like the allowances that come with it. So I believe the problem will come certainly from the income angle, not declaring everything and hiding some. That's why I said at the beginning, it does not pay you to hide because the long arms of the law, because that is tax evasion and that's a criminal act.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to go on. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Let me now move on to, there are two more hands waiting. Christopher Akioya. Is it Ikioya or Akioya? Then Akioya. Kingsley, Akioya. Ego. There are two of you waiting. Let's Christopher start first. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Speak louder, please. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Okay, sir. My question is, it's not like, it's not more of a question. It's just a worry that are the local governments carried along? I mean, how do you manage? Are they carried along in this scheme of things, in this general plan by their state governors? You know, because we've seen over the time that
very important question.
Yes, because over time we see that the governors take some decisions, and when they win this, like just like as UK has won something, this case in court, you know, now they begin to bring out their real self and take charge of all this monies that are coming from this value-added tax. So is there a system where the local governments or the direct people in some of these local governments are carried along in this general process? Thank you, sir.
Christopher, my first reaction to you is this. It is easy to hold one person or the other responsible. But you as a citizen, you belong to a local government.
Yes, sir.
How many times have you visited your local government to ask them questions? Have you seen the quality of the people in the local governments? Have you questioned anything they are doing? What we have discovered is that many of the local governments are so weak. So the next thing that should happen now is that we all must put our hands together to carry out local government reforms. They have done elections in some places right now. Who are the people? Go. Have you gone to see who are these people that are your local government chairmen and councillors and so on? We have that problem. Yes, I agree with you. Things are not right. But we don't get it right by holding somebody else responsible. But all of us, if we decide on the quality of the people at the local government, because the concept behind setting the local government is for development. But you and I have betrayed that position that we should have taken. Many of us don't even know our local government chairmen or even seen them. They are supposed to work for us, but we don't. So I see your worry, and that's my own worry too. But I think we too have a job as individuals. Nigeria belongs to all of us, not just to the governor or to the members of National Assembly. They will be helped if we put our own local government people in the straight and narrow and tell them that we are watching what they are doing. If all these monies that go to them every month, you have a duty as an individual to ask them, how did you spend the money? It doesn't belong to them. They prepare budgets every year. Have you and I, not just you, Christopher, I'm not talking at you, but to myself too, how often have I gone to ask my local government to show me the budget? I hope you understand the point I'm making.
Very, very, very valid.
If we are going to build Nigeria, it must be everybody's responsibility.
Yes, but let me follow up with that. I have a follow-up question to that, sir. The way you've explained it, it kind of makes sense, but I think it's a bit one-sided. When you consider the fact that people voted them there, the same people should be able to have a voice to say, we voted it there. The money they gave you, there must be evidence that they gave them money. Yeah. The money we gave you, you are not using it for what you said you will use it. If a local government chairman is buying a car that is by 100 million or 40 million or even 20 million, and the road to the street is not hard, and some of the marketplaces are not developed for the common good of all the marketers or market men and women, what do you think will happen? I think the people's voices should really be heard. And the people are the ones who lay down there in the grassroots. Isn't that so, sir?
That's right. Now, let me also create a situation here. It was right. You said the people must be heard. But are the people speaking? If they don't speak, you can't hear them. The other one is that anybody who is on here today is as guilty as I am. Because we are the so-called, in bracket, the elite. What have we done? We are the ones that whose voices should be heard. We know what is happening at the lower level. So these people are comfortable because we are silent. And therefore, we're not using our voices to make them realize that they have a duty and a responsibility. The example you gave about the vehicle. If you saw your chairman, your local government driving a very expensive vehicle and all these things are not being done, all you will do, you will say, huh? You will hiss. And you will tell your friends about it. You will joke about it. You put it on the platform and abuse him. And that's the end of the matter. But nobody goes to him and say, Oga, show us your budget. Where did you get this money to buy this car? And you have your right. That's how your voice will be heard.
Thank you, sir. Let me call on Kingsley Ego, please go ahead, speak or send your message. There's somebody that sent a text that I'm going to find the chat. Yes, Kingsley, go ahead, please. Is Kingsley there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Ijewere.
Afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Yes, I was just wondering if, as wonderful as this situation that is playing out is, if it will not, at the end of the day, just like the typical Nigerian situation, not become is a beautiful way of going, a beautiful way of, for those of us.
So your fear is that it might be
who have been clamoring for true federalism all the while. So what my fear is that. Yes.
Did you get the answer and the question, Mr. Ijewere, sir?
Yeah, I didn't get the question. I know.
Let me read it to you again. He sent it on the chat as well. He says, as wonderful as the situation playing out now is, for those of us who have prayed for true federalism in Nigeria over the years, my fear is that this could be politicized as usual. Do you nurse this fear yourself, Mr. Ijewere?
I nurse, the fear I nurse is my own complacency and your complacency. That's the only fear I nurse, because the system gives us the opportunity, but we are too selfish with our time, too selfish with our efforts. I mean, like I said, now I'm working in the office now. If I know that something is wrong at the local government level, my streak is not tied, I will not take time off my work to go to the local government or write a letter to the local government or petition the governor of Lagos State. But what I do understand about true federalism is this, that it is easier to control the government if they are closer to you. First, it's by far more difficult for me to complain about the Villa or Aso Rock than it is for me to complain about my governor. I can write a petition to the governor. I can complain to the governor, complain to the local government. The more you bring this government nearer to me, the easier for me. It is true that I and you have not done what we're supposed to do, but we'll have less to complain about the closer the government is to us. So the true federation cannot be politicized unless we, who are the electorate, allow it to be politicized and we keep quiet. When we stop keeping quiet, things will start getting right.
Okay. Just to let you know that we still have a little less than an hour to go. So if you have any question, even on Instagram, Facebook, please feel free. I promise you we'll read it out. And those in the Zoom chambers, please go ahead, ask many more questions, and then we'll take it up from there. But sir, you said something about if somebody does not declare what he earns, he may not be charged to pay tax. Is that a legitimate thing to do? Is that the right thing to do? And you also said if you are caught, then you'll be liable to court issues and maybe sentencing in court and maybe prison, liable to imprisonment. Let me not mix myself up. Yeah. Please, what do you think is the implication? Aren't you saying, therefore, that people are free to keep trying and trying until they are caught? No. That means keep evading tax until the day
the law is clear. The law is very clear. Yeah. You are supposed to declare everything, all your sources of income. You are supposed to state all your sources of income. That's why you fill the form. And when you see the form, you will see how comprehensive it is. All your sources of income, you're supposed to do that annually. But if you fail to do it, you've already committed an offense. The fact that you were not caught does not mean that you have not committed a crime. Like somebody said jokingly, there are more criminals outside Kirikiri than inside Kirikiri. So that does not mean that it's only those inside Kirikiri who are the criminals. So I'm just simply saying this, that the law is absolutely clear. The fact that you gave a document that is wrong is a crime in itself. So it pays you a lot better, because one time or the other you will get caught. It pays you better to do the right thing and have peace of mind. So I am not encouraging anybody to hold anything back from his annual returns. No, please declare everything. And if you are not sure about anything, ask questions. But declare all your income from all sources.
Okay. All right. There's a statement here, but this sounds accusatory. Well, I'll just see how best I can follow it up. One says, okay, Mokobia Theo on Facebook says, I think the Southern governors are trying to wake up, but Wike should watch his back. EFCC is there to put people like him back to status quo.
Now the premium they calculate now.
Seriously? Some people are just throwing themselves.
Now, for me, I don't think the issue about value-added tax is a political issue or is a Southern governors thing or a Northern governors thing. It is simple. Okay. Each governor who is elected has a primary duty to look after the best interest of its own people. Wherever you are in the country, your duty and responsibility is to get for your people the best you can get from the system legally. And this is one of the ways. So that's why I said it's not only this Wike and Sanwo-Olu that are all going to benefit from this. The Kano State Governor and the Ganduje, as well as Nasir, are going to benefit too, but not for them, but for their people. So it's not a north-south thing. Let's move it away from politics and look at the economics of it. So that is the whole idea. It's not a north-south thing. And I believe that one needs to look at it objectively, not from this perception.
There's something, okay, this one said, Osilama Joseph from Facebook again. In June, 15.1 billion was collected as taxes in Rivers State, but 4.7 billion was given to Rivers State. 46.4 was collected from Lagos State, but Lagos got only 9.3 billion. Kano generated 2.8 billion and got 2.8 billion. Have you seen the injustice in this country? This man is asking. I will not be governor forever. It's not about me, but about the system. So let the right thing be done. So says Osilama Joseph. What do you have to say, sir?
Simple. Well, I agree with him totally. The figures he has presented, okay. But what we are talking about, this VAT, what has happened in the case of Rivers State is a way of correcting this anomaly. What he has done is that he has put the injustice into figures. Those are the figures. And again, those figures themselves, when you say so much was collected in Lagos State, if it was Lagos State Internal Revenue Service that was in actual fact collecting the VAT or the taxes, wouldn't it have been more efficient? Wouldn't they have collected a lot more? That is the question one would ask. So I agree with him absolutely that is the injustice, and that's why I'm happy about this court judgment, and I hope it will not be reversed. This battle has started. We should not allow this big stone to stop rolling.
Okay. Then the Chimezie Onweme from Facebook again says, for how long have they been playing this despicable and vulgar game on us? We kept mute in the name of one Nigeria. That's a serious one. Maybe I should just take the next three ones because they are short.
Yes, go ahead. I don't want to be engaged in the political statement.
Ezindu Stanley says every rational individual would agree on this. And then Michael Moshegon says, very well said. Okay, so those are the ones I can say from those ones. And then Chibuike Allison says, spot on. So what do you have to say, sir?
Well, what I would say is that everybody has a duty and responsibility to look at the law.
True.
And the law is to regulate society. It's taken us a long time to see the hole in the law to force us to do what is right. We have accepted the law, that because of the law, the unfairness in the value-added tax collection and distribution system has been there, but we found a hole in it now. So this is the best time for us now to start working to ensure that what should have been done in 1994 till date can start being done from today. That's my own thinking. And I'm glad that Lagos State Assembly is moving fast on their this. And I just hope that the governor will sign it into law as quickly as possible.
Okay. Nduka Kenneth says, this is a part of restructuring in disguise. It is a welcome development. And Akinyemi Akinwale says, God bless Governor Wike for challenging the federal government and creating a leeway for some states to recover some of their unjustified losses to the federal government. I know they are definitive in their feelings and expressions, but yes. Do you have anything to say about that, sir?
No, I mean, everybody, there is this proverb that when you hold your hoe, you dig the sand to under your feet. That's how farmers, because I'm a farmer, that's our own kind of proverb. So every state must dig the soil to under its own feet. I expect every governor to look after the interests of its own people. So, but if you don't, then you keep quiet, you create a vacuum, somebody else feels it. So that's the way I see it. And I'm glad the way it is going, but it must be done in a structured manner through discussions and negotiation.
Can I take you a little bit away from tax?
Okay.
And go to something that is a bit indirect.
Okay.
There's been a lot of unsavory behavior on the part of criminals who now take to kidnapping, not just kidnapping, but kidnapping in large numbers. And also to the extent that they demand huge ransoms. Now, these huge ransoms, they go through the banks, don't they? You know, one would expect that some of these monies are traced and the law should take its course. The law enforcement agencies should really do their best and should be able to determine where this money goes to, who is directly or indirectly behind some of these anomalous behavior. That's some serious untaxed money just going into the wrong hands.
Now, first, well, beyond that, you remember some time ago, part of the ransom was motorcycles. They insisted on motorcycles, brand new motorcycles being delivered to them. You cannot put a motorcycle in your pocket or squeeze it in your hand to give to somebody else. Why did the police not know about this? Where will you put all those motorcycles? I think a large number of motorcycles. They even insisted on rice being brought to them. Impunity has become such that it appears that you don't even have a law enforcement agency, because the law enforcement agency should use its brain, its own ability to find out behind the research that goes into this is not very complicated. And today we have electronic surveillance. The cost of a drone is not much, and it can do so much. Why are we not deploying this? These are issues that I'm worried about. Again, I know that maybe they're doing the best they can, but that best is not good enough. It's an embarrassment as a Nigerian to see on CNN that they came and they kidnapped over 100 children. How did they, where did they pass? What road did they take? And in areas especially where you have checkpoints everywhere, checkpoints should not be on the road. It should be on the road, but and around the surroundings. But again, the issue is, let me also explain this, which I regret to say. We need to improve the quality of the people who work in terms of education, exposure, and commitment, who work in our security agency. The policemen we have in Nigeria can never be better than the society from where they came.
Yeah.
So we need to improve that very much. So it's so easy. And it also pains me, the number of these security agents, especially the policemen that have been killed. These are people with families. These are people with responsibilities. What happens to their widows and their children? So it's a painful experience. It's not just the kidnapping as kidnapping, but what happens when you hear that a man has been kidnapped, 2 of his orderlies have been killed. Those orderlies are not numbers. They are human beings. They have wives, they have children, they have mothers, they have fathers, they have cousins. All these are painful. Also, one is a comprehensive thing. One cannot just look at that. And Nigeria is going through a terrible situation now. But we can get out of it if we work together and achieve it. Again, yesterday we did the burial arrangement of Dr. Ikomu, who is one of the foremost security people in Nigeria today. Yes. And he has been shouting, and if you go and read his books, I think he has about 4 books about security. He's been writing about this for a very long time. It's possible that even our security agencies have not read these books. So,
hello, Ijewere?
Things that one needs involvement in Nigeria the way it should be, because it's affecting our economy very, very much. I mean, the agricultural space, we are going to have food shortage at the end of this planting season, because a number of farmers were prevented out of fear from going to their farms. So it's a bigger thing, and just the kidnapping is just one of them, but what are the consequences going forward? And then those areas of the country have to now find a way of shoring up their food reserve. Those are the issues that we need to look at.
You've raised a very, should I say, scary situation, but which is very truthful situation, that we are exposed to the dangers of famine, dangers of uncontrolled, insecurity, crime. And our farms, where we have our innocent citizens whose livelihood are mainly out of those farms. They call it subsistence farming, I think.
Yeah.
There's a serious danger there, because Benue, which has been the food basket of the nation, has had a fair share of a lot of carnage, killings, maiming, and people driven out of their farmland. Same thing with all these states, all over the country. Yes, I know this is away from your forte, but may I ask you, sir, what really is your advice to the leadership? I know they may be overwhelmed themselves, because I'm sure they didn't see this coming and they didn't plan for it, so could not have determined immediately how best to deal with it. But what's your advice, sir?
The first thing is, let us stop burying our heads in the sand.
Like the ostrich.
Yes. Look at the number of children, I'm talking about 10 years ago, that were out of school. Look at the number of almajiris, these children that are born and thrown in the streets. We all know that they will grow up. We all know that they have no foundation. We all know that we'll find a means of survival. So let us stop pretending that we don't know. It's getting worse and worse every day. The situation is, what I mean by getting worse again is that even now, the children that are even at school are frightened to go to school, especially in the northern part of the country. They will now become part of the problems of the future. So they become a recruiting ground for criminals. So what should we do? What should we do is to plan ahead, do what needs to be done, invest in those areas. I do not see how these criminals can beat Nigerian security system. I don't see. Except the security system has been compromised. I don't see. So I find it difficult. And then you just even leave the farmers and go further. Even when the goods leave the farm, a vehicle, we did a research, a vehicle bringing tomatoes from Kaduna, which is the largest tomato growing state in the country.
Yes.
From Kaduna has to go through 32 checkpoints.
Wow.
32 checkpoints. This delays the arrival of the goods in Lagos by at least 48 hours. The cost and the damage to the tomato, the people of Lagos will have to pay the high prices. The farmer never benefited from it. Everybody is a loser. Those are issues that can be dealt with, but we need to sit down together as a people, as a nation, look at our problems and stop burying our heads in the sand. These checkpoints that are on the road, we know they are set there for only one purpose, to collect money from the drivers and the transporters. That is all, no more. It's not as if you're carrying illicit goods from Kano to Lagos. So we know this, and this is burying our heads in the sand. We know what the truth situation is, and it's happening, and it's been happening for over 30 years, and it continues to happen. So, my brother, until we are able to now stop burying our heads in the sand, telling ourselves the truth, we cannot make progress.
Thank you, sir. In fact, there's another comment. What happened to VAT collected by federal agencies like NPA from goods imported into Nigeria from other countries? Who will NPA pay to?
In actual fact, that it goes to the Federal Revenue Service. It's part of this whole money that are coming in.
Yes.
They put it all together.
Okay.
So the money
this question,
collected, yes.
So go on, sir.
Customs make sure that the VAT is paid.
Okay. This question came from Dr. Coco Udo.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Coco Udo, thank you so much. Any more questions, please feel free to ask us. Time is gradually going on, and we might soon call it quits. But I just want to be sure that every one of us has gotten the message. Nothing came from, hello, somebody speaking? Somebody wants to talk? Okay. Sorry, all the people. Adewale Ajibola, mute yourself, please. And Victoria Luashe, okay, mute yourself as well. Now, before I throw the question to another person, I need to ask you, sir, as a man who's handled tax affairs for almost all your adult life, would you say Nigeria has come a long way along the continents of Africa? Can we now say that Nigeria is one of the best tax communities or countries in Africa? Where do you rate Nigeria? Do we fall into the first 5 top countries in Africa? I'm not talking about the world, just the continent.
Yeah. This was an exercise that we tried to carry out last year, in fact, over 2 years. And from the experience we've had, I can safely say Nigeria comes as one of the top 4 countries in terms of efficiency in tax collection.
Really?
But that is still very bad because there's a huge gap between the top 2 countries and the rest.
Oh,
South
okay.
Africa and Egypt
are the top 2.
Way ahead of Nigeria, but there are so many countries below Nigeria. So Nigeria needs to improve. The main one is the tax net. There are too many holes in our tax net. In other words, a number of people who are supposed to pay tax have not been captured yet. But that's why I said that this digitalization is likely to do that. And we're going to work on that. I'm sure we will improve considerably within the next 24 months, the way it is now, with this BVN and all these other things that we are now bringing all our statistics together, our data collection and collation are working positively towards this. So I would say Nigeria in Africa is, by African standard, is doing well, but by world standard, is still very poor. but we have the chances of improving very considerably very soon.
I love the fact that, I mean, your optimism, your sense of optimism really refreshes my hope and makes me believe that, you know, we are moving in the right direction. However, with the security threat, you know, always reminding us of where we are and what is happening to us, and the seeming inability of governments to control this. When we say government, it's only natural because though many people have been shouting that why we are always accusing government. I don't know if we are accusing government, but that government controls crime. I mean, agencies that should control crime. Government is the one that also determines, you know, who are and appoints who is capable of managing such, you know, crime control agencies.
Yes.
With all this in mind, sir, please, I'm not trying to sound too winding my question, but with all these little potholes on the way, how do you see us achieving this, your message of optimism that you gave a moment ago?
First, I'm optimistic because Nigeria is very good at playing brinkmanship. We never fall into the pothole. And what has happened here is that it's taken us a long time to get to where we are today. But I do see a lot more interest and direction being created. It is true that the biggest problem we have is the quality of our politicians. And that quality is the low quality is created by us, because many of us who could have gone into politics have refused to go. The best people in politics are those who have achieved something in their lives and have now said, the country has been good to me. Let me go back. Yes. Let me now give back to the country. Those are the best politicians. But if it's a politician who is just starting life, he has nothing to bring to the table, and he himself is hungry, he will be eating from all sides of the mouth, believing that he doesn't want to go back to where he's coming from. Those are the things that are happening. So it's not, that's the biggest problem we have. But it is my hope that more and more qualitative people will start going into politics. I'm seeing that in some particular states, and I'm impressed, and I think the quality will keep on improving. And even there is something I just wanted to say very quickly. We were discussing a few days ago, even the traditional rulership. Do a statistics. 20 years ago, who were the kind of people who were the natural rulers? Who were they? Who were the obas? Who were the emirs? I hope you understand the point I'm making. See them today. See their quality. Many of them are professionals of one kind or the other.
Yeah.
So we can now only let these people think. They think differently from their own forebears. So those are positive things. I looked at it. I saw a picture of 20 obas and so on from various parts of the West. And I discovered that only one of them was not a graduate. And that's heart-lifting. So these people understand a lot better. They're better than what we used to have 20 years ago. So one has optimism, and then there's, you see, this thing they call social media has also created things where a few things are done in secret. So anybody who is going into politics now will have a lot more challenge going forward than what it used to be. Okay,
let me give you, I'm going to take a part of what has just been sent in by Ademola Christopher Olide. He says, states should collect all taxes and remit a small percentage to federal government. Any state not viable should be merged. Do you agree with that? The last sentence especially. Any state not viable should be merged.
I believe that Ademola is a businessman. So he's talking purely from a business point of view. So merging a state is not a business. It's a political situation, and the pride of people are being challenged. Theoretically, that would be good, but in practice, that's almost impossible.
Wow. Now, that is pregnant, sir. Almost impossible. Okay. Because questions are not coming in, and I don't want to overstretch you, you've spoken for 1.5 hours non-stop, because we only took bits and pieces of your time. So should I therefore say that I'm going to leave 10 minutes of looking at it at overview level, and if more questions come, I'll take them. If not, we'll conclude finally. So let's use the next 10 minutes or so to look at, at least I got quite a few questions from Facebook today. Good. What's up? Let's look back. I remember when I had the Alhaji Dr. Jibril Aminu, Senator Jibril Aminu on Sonny Rabol Live on AIT many years ago. He said something that resonates in my head right now, that at that time, too many states that could hardly take care of their citizens were in existence, and yet politicians were clamoring for more states. And then, yes, this may not sound like it's relevant to this whole issue about VAT or taxation. How do you look at that statement, sir? Because it seems to still rear its head today. Do we need more states? Shouldn't we be merging states the way things are going?
The answer to that is simple. We have left the country to politicians. We have not been involved in thinking. The politician is a person who wants to conquer and rule. He wants a territory for himself. And we've allowed this to continue. We've been replicating from the time there were 3 regions, and then you had 4. And then thereafter, the military by fiat sit down and take a piece of pen and draw a map round and create states. Without the only state that was created by the people's will is what used to be the Midwestern states, which was later became Bender. That is today Edo State and Delta State. That was done through a plebiscite. There was a referendum, and the people said we wanted to go. All the others were done by an individual. In fact, they sat down in their clubs while drinking beer, decided where we will create states and where we will have the capital. They had the gun, they had the power, they had the control. Nothing was thought deeply before it was done. So if you now say states, people want to create states today, there will be no end to it. In actual fact, take any state. I assure you, if they start creating states, there's no, even Lagos, as small as Lagos is, the day you say the Badagry people say they want their own state, I assure you, Ekpe people will say, how about us? Then Kurudu will say, now we only offend God. You end up with about 10 states in Lagos. There's no end to it. So the sooner we start using our brains and saying states are created for development, what development have we achieved? We spend so much money running the administration and little money available for development. Left
and
to
the country,
me,
yes, go on.
I would have preferred the situation of Nigeria just reverting to 6. Don't call them states. Give
Maybe
one
regions?
name, that is the present geographical, the geopolitical zones.
Zones, okay.
Turn them into one, so we can cut down the cost of administration. So much money is being wasted. I know that will not be possible. So let us contend with what we have right now, but create competition amongst them. The states that will be unable to survive will beg the other states to please take them over. That's the way I see it. It will get to that state where they will find a way of surviving. So that's the way I see. And you know that there are a number of countries outside the United States that were not part of the old union, but they were now taking Puerto Rico and so on and so forth. You have something like that when that time comes. So I don't believe in creating any more states. We've made our mistakes. We've acted stupidly. There's no more perpetuating the stupidity.
Okay, back. So I'm just wondering, my control room, are we still on? Are we still on, please? We're off. We're on. Okay. Mr. Ijewere, can you speak loud? Can I hear you?
Yes, yeah, I'm fine.
Thank you. I missed you. I was locked out all of a sudden from the Zoom, so I'm not so sure what your answers were or was. Could you just quickly paraphrase again, if you don't mind?
Yes, simple. When you start talking about states, there'll be no end to it. And I gave Lagos an example. You might end up with about 7 new states in Lagos. Now, therefore, I said it does not make sense to create any more states. We've made a lot of mistakes already. And I had earlier said that I would have preferred a situation where Nigeria will be better run from right on geopolitical zone, southeast, south, and so on and so forth. But that will not be practicable because there will be no agreement. So let us stick to what we have right now and make the best, because somewhere and give them the right to be a member of a federation and develop at their own pace. It is those states themselves that will look forward to other states taking them over. Let them be the one that will demand it, not for you to impose it on them. That will be nothing but violence if you say you merge 2 states by force. So let them be the one that will beg for it.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
the way I say it.
Now, this question says, Teresa Adebayo, looking at the state level of taxation, the issue of taxes on the road by transport workers who keep paying to touts, who keep paying touts too, is it possible to clean up this sector, tax payment-wise? Should I take a second one?
Let me take that quickly. Many of these people see themselves as alternate government. And so, because the government itself cannot provide jobs for them. And so, people seem to have accepted them as a way of life. In the same way as we have accepted men in uniform on the high roads collecting money from trailer drivers. That mentality is there. So, it has been accepted. Ask any trailer driver, they will tell you. Ask any motor park driver in Lagos, they've accepted that fact. So there's an alternative government. So it's a way of collecting tax and providing for themselves. So that's the more reason why states need to take more control of their revenue sources. If you are able to now take this VAT back, government will have less reason to allow these people to set alternative governments on the road to be collecting money from people on the road. And people will now be able to fight back and say, I have paid my taxes. But paying the taxes to the federal makes it a lot more remote thing. So I suggest the fact that everything should be done for government to take over and run the place. These things are done in local government. How many local government officials do you see on the road? Everything in Lagos, to the best of my knowledge, they will talk about Alausa, despite all the local governments in Lagos. What are they doing? All these motor parks are in local government areas. What are the local governments doing? Nothing. And how have we challenged them? So that's my own response to the lady.
Thank you, sir, for that beautiful question response. Christopher Ekeya, a second time, says somehow the optimism is quite good, but we might be doing well in some southern states, especially Lagos and Rivers. Maybe in Benin City or Edo State, Kano and Kaduna as well. This has been the situation many years ago. The Almajiris of yesteryear are still there today. Education in some northern states have nosedived. There's still lack of light and farming has almost been eradicated in some areas. I don't even know where the hope will come from outside the big states and cities that we were used to since primary school.
Point of correction. He says that Almajiris are still there. I think you need to qualify that. The Almajiri that was born 25 years ago is a 25-year-old man now. It's very likely he has to look for a source of livelihood for himself. And since there are no jobs and he has no skills, and he gets hold of an AK-47, he becomes a limited liability company that will find a way of livelihood. And when he gets other people, he will set up branches of AK-47s. So the real issue we are having is the Almajiris of yesterday. Remember I said earlier on about hiding our heads in the sand.
Yes,
they grow up and they graduate into a higher age and have nothing. And since they didn't have a family, they did not have a father or a mother figure in their lives. They have lived in the street. They have been controlled by people they did not know, who themselves are criminals. So that is the danger we have. Yes, I'm optimistic. But when we first of all recognize our problem, it's easier to solve. It's when you do not recognize your problem that you start having problems. We can see the problems. Now, let us now start using our brains. That's where the local governments should come in. Have a statistics of the Almajiri. They know they cannot have peace as long as these people are not looked after. So they have to be looked after one way or the other. So my hope is that we are not a hopeless people. We are very intelligent people, and we walk to the brink, and then we always come back. Now we have gotten to the brink. My hope is that we'll be coming back like we have always done.
Beautiful, prayerful hopes, sir. And I'm also looking at the fact that this prayerfulness will augur well for us. But why is there an element of apathy being displayed? Look, there's a distrust between the people and governance at every level. We've hinted at all of them, but most times we're actually hitting at the man at the very top, forgetting that right there at our grassroots level, this same problem, is very, very, should I say paramount, common, or whatever. Is there a possibility that we can, begin to, how can we get our people to look inward and say, this problem actually starts with me, or how can I better my lot? How can I change my way of behaving?
It will come from the leadership of our leaders, the kind of people we have. You see, we have a situation here where we have accepted situations all these years.
Yes.
Unless we start challenging the situations today. Can you remember what happens with NSAS? Would you have imagined the kind of destruction that was done to property? That destruction was the level of anger. And in actual fact, these were people who were angry and implemented part of their anger. And they represented less than 1% of the angry people. Can you imagine if the other 99% came out? There would have been civil war in Nigeria. Nigeria is a very sad country as of today. Nigeria is a very, very sad and worried people. They have no belief in government. That's why they destroy government properties. So there is a disconnect between government and the government. And the sooner we start doing that, the better. So whenever any of us has the opportunity, challenge these politicians. They cannot keep hiding. One day, another NSAS will come out, and I pray it does not happen, that violence is meted out on the leaders. So it is important. Remember, during that violence, despite the fact it was a very small minority of people, they headed for the prison, trying to set people free. Even in Lagos, Ikoyi prison.
They happened in some states, though.
Absolutely. So they try to even, these are issues that we need to look at, that it does not happen again. If we think that politicians believe that, oh, they've got away with it, they have the people back in prison. We are not in prison. People will seek for a way, anger, and I hope it is not the anger that will solve our problem. It will be uncontrolled. NSAS violence was uncontrolled anger, and we are all paying for it. Look at those new buses that were burnt.
And all
they were
burnt out.
heartbreak. The courts, the Lagos State courts, we are put in a terrible situation, and people suffered as a consequence. Lagos State lost a lot. So, but nevertheless, the politicians need to regroup themselves and say, what have we done wrong? We ourselves, who are the majority, who elected them, we too need to ask ourselves, what have we gone wrong, and how do we repair it?
Is there a possibility that we have less than 14 minutes more? Is there a possibility that I'm back to the assemblies now, National Assembly, state assemblies, and all of the, and even local government councils. Is there a possibility that they can be tutored? It's a derogatory language, I'm sorry to use that language. Is it possible that we can make them to look inward, individual?
We cannot.
Responsibility. They owe the people.
90% of them went to the assembly because there's money to be made there. And they intend to come out of that assembly as multi-millionaires, if not billionaires. That is the objective, and that is the truth. Until we challenge them, and that's where I'm just looking at this situation. Let me explain. If we create true federalism, each state will come up with its tax collection drive, have a record of all its people, and find out how much they are earning. By the time you start making people vomit monies that they have gotten illegally, they will think twice. As of today, we are not there. So we can use the tax system to right the wrongs that have been done to the people. When you see how parties and the monies that are spent at those parties, you wonder. So those are issues that are creating bitterness. The people are bitter. And I hope they don't turn on the politicians. It was properties that were destroyed. I hope people don't turn on people in future. I'm praying for that. And the sooner we recognize that danger is there, the better for us.
How? That's a very heavy one. And it's heavy because the fear of the unknown is a very major threat to one's peace of mind. And the way the country has been in recent times has shown that, well, I don't know. I said earlier that it's not something that you want to blame, leadership completely about, but you also want to blame the followers themselves. You want to also blame each and every one of us. If I cannot control myself, I have the urge because the highway is free and the road is showing. Yes, sir.
But you see, it's been said, but it's true. When you look at it, the best professions to go into to make quick money are 1, politics, 2, church. Set up your church and make people fear. And then they see you as their salvation. Or you go into politics and you sit down on the budget of the country. You cut out a sizable part of it for yourself. Those are the two most profitable in quotes, I would say criminal sources and quick income.
How can we control it?
Yes.
How can we manage it? How can we begin to take it?
Through education and making examples of them. We have also looked at, you see, remember I said earlier that there's income tax and there is value-added tax.
Yes.
Now, if this value-added tax is properly applied, consumption will be checked. Consumptions will be heavily checked. If you say you want to have a party, you serve soft drinks, what you pay as VAT will be small. If you decide to serve champagne, what you would pay will be heavy. After some times, you will now ask yourself the question, do I need to buy that champagne? Does it make sense? And these are issues, and we discovered that many of the things we think are necessary today are no longer necessary. Let's take an example. When there is going to be a wedding, you spend so much money hiring a hall after the church service. COVID taught us a lesson. Now, as people are leaving the church, you are giving them a hand pass to take home. You say it's so cheap to marry during COVID. So people are asking their children to get married during COVID. It's a lot cheaper. These are realities that are happening. It shows that extravagance in Nigeria is now becoming something that we're using to ridicule ourselves.
Thank you, sir. One last question before you call it quits today. This is coming from Uzoma Okwara. He says, sorry, I joined in late. And he says, absolute power to the center has not helped us in any way. The evolution of power by ensuring that governance is done from the grassroots, which will help to set things right in the country, is what we should embrace.
I will answer Uzoma. I will say, Uzoma, you are correct, but not fully correct. The only way you will be correct is that when we now have this governance at the local government level, at the grassroots level, you and I must participate by questioning them, finding out what they are doing, challenging them. Otherwise, it will be a new set of oppressors that we shall be creating at the local government. Thank you, Zoma.
Wow. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been quite a day. I won't say, I don't know. I was tempted to leave this in a one hour. I said, no, the subject is too volatile, too important to ignore. And the guest has been an exceptional gentleman, where he's known for what he's capable of doing. He's the man who actually midwifed value-added tax in Nigeria, as far back as between 1992 and 1994. And that was under the time of Babangida, and they moved on from Babangida to Abacha's time as well. Now, I must say, sir, Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere, that you are a great man. You've done very well. And one last question is coming from, if you don't mind, sir, from Instagram. He said, so true. It was extremely cheap to marry during COVID. One would have thought it would change people's mindsets, that life is ephemeral. Lasting, laudable projects should be our focus. Lasting, laudable projects should be our focus. That's a very big, powerful line to conclude this program today. And so, Mr. Ijewere, sir, for who you are, what you've been, and the much they've done for the country, including myself and many of us, are indebted to you. And the fact that you still manage to express yourself so legitimately and so effortlessly, we say kudos to you, sir. And we will beg you that we will not stop in calling on you whenever it's necessary. Another person has sent another question, said I should please take the chat, if you don't mind. All right, it said, one grave mistake is looking at governance from the side. We are all supposed to be part of the system. Okay, that's from Uzoma. Then my name is Ijewere Osanyade. Okay, that sounds Robobini. I joined the lectures late. Fine. Can I have the material on my mail? Okay, all right. Well, sorry, sir, that was not meant for you, but for the production crew. We'll see how that can be done for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Mr. Ijewere, sir, God bless you. And as I said, I hope you don't mind. We'll call on you again. Please feel free to join us and oblige us. And on behalf of every other person here, we thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. It has been a pleasure having you. Thank you very much, Sonny. Sonny Irabor Live, SIL. I look forward to this next time, and I enjoy listening to it myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. On Friday, we also have another session like this, and that will be featuring Dr. Anthony Agmonsebafe, who is based in the UK, is a researcher, and he believes that governance and the people should be re-oxygenized. That's an interesting phrase, oxygen. Oxygen is the air we breathe. So if you re-oxygenize them, anyway, he has a lot to talk about, and that's for Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. We'll be there with you. We'll be here with you. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you, sir, again, and all the people that took part. Goodbye. God bless you. Bye-bye.